Okay, the time is 5 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you'll please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. We'll go ahead and jump right into our period of items, starting with approving the minutes. Have the commissioners had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting? Any questions, comments, or concerns or revisions? Okay, I'm gonna motion to approve the minutes. I'll second that. So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, respond by saying aye. Aye. Minutes are approved.
Commissioner Brian, we skipped the public comment.
I skipped the public comment again.
I don't know if anybody has any.
So thank you for reminding me. We'll start with public comment. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes. State your name and where you live. And is there anybody in the room with public comment? None in the room. Is there any online? None online. Okay, well, see, that's why. I skipped it.
Didn't need to go back.
Okay, so now we'll jump to reviewing the monthly budget report and approving of vouchers.
Okay, so you have 2 monthly budget reports, or well, one year end, which I think we'll look at that one first. We finally got all the numbers squared away from the county, and so if you look at the income side first. So that on this side, if the numbers are in red on the right-hand side, that means we took in more revenue than budgeted. And so you can see, details, like we took in more tax revenue, and that was because it was the back Columbia Pulp taxes. And, some more rental revenue, more miscellaneous revenue, because we sold that parcel to grain growers. Way more interest income than we had budgeted, because you can actually make interest now again, and so on. So, you can see then we had more revenue than budgeted. And then the grants and loans section is a little harder to track because it kind of depends on the timing of reimbursements and how much we really spent on a project. But everything there was, we didn't take in as much as we budgeted, but it's all a wash, because it's either the income matches the expenses, or it's the ADO grant, which we know we got all those funds. So that side is just, we ended the year in great shape. And then on the expense side, it's the opposite. The numbers in red are the line items that we overspent. I am not sure what happened with payroll taxes. We clearly had some sort of a miscalculation. And then the retirement, of course, was that audit mistake.
Right.
Then everything else was very small potatoes. We knew we were over on travel. Let's see, architecture and engineering, that was the bike trail design, finishing that up, which is done, and the revenue that matches that is now came in this year. But you can see that, like in the maintenance capital improvement section, we spent way less than we budgeted. So it all comes out a wash. Basically, if you look at the bottom line, we budgeted, we spent just a little bit more than we budgeted for 2003. Gosh, I thought it was under that when we looked at this the first time, Tracy. That's weird.
Well, doesn't it say we're
I think it fits.
96.7%?
Yeah, it does.
Total.
Yeah. So we spent a little less than we took in. Is that right? But the numbers don't look that way. It was a different number. I'm gonna have to look that up now. It was a $3 million number, not 4, when I looked at it the first time. How could that have changed? It's weird. Anyway, we did just fine, but those are all the details, and luckily, we're not one of those governments that has to worry about line items, because if we overspend in one, we can underspend in another. Okay? If you want to peruse that, you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So then we go on to this year, and the voucher sheet, the expenses I'll draw to your attention are the Anderson Perry bill was Fushi Valley Broadband. That is cultural resource monitoring that we are required by law to do when they are boring or digging where there are culturally sensitive areas. Airleaf Consulting is the last payment to that feasibility study. consultant. The auditor is elections. A little bit less than last year. Mill Creek, well, actually, way less than last year because there was no primary. So that was 6,000, just for the public's notice, it was $6,072 for election this year. Last year it was about 14,000. Mill Creek Mechanical was oven repair at the kitchen. Stephen Peterson was the economist on the malt feasibility study. DOT was another highway permit to bore under the state highway with fiber. 0DB were fiber. And then finally got a big bill from Blue Mountain Tel, that last one, that's the fiber company, constructor right now, so that was he had a problem with his bill in December, so they had to wait and give it to us now, so it was pretty big. So I think that explains all the big, unusual spending. So any questions on any of those other vouchers, so voucher items?
No, not for me at this time.
Okay. So that one, we have a signature approval on, so we will, oh, here's the minutes. So Commissioner Spring, you are the new treasurer, the secretary, so you get to sign that.
Oh, boy.
And then you all get to sign that.
Do we need a motion to?
No, we have never done that when we sign it.
Okay.
It was the way they did it when I started here, so I just kept the tradition. So, I guess they figure on leases and things like this, if you sign it, that's your approval.
Okay, let's talk about leases. Do we have any?
We have no leases this month, but I did wanna, ask you about, we had a woman come in today who has a part-time health and wellness business who's interested in the last space in the co-working building. And she needs to think about it, but if she wants to take it, she'd like to take it March 1st, which would be before we could get a lease signed. But it's the last space, the prices are set, you know, it's the rent and the utilities are included, so it's really nothing out of the ordinary, so I thought unless you had a concern, I would we could move forward and then have you sign the lease at the March meeting. Okay, all right. So yeah, that, our last space is gonna be taken, I think. Okay, so that's it there.
Okay, so following up on the policies with our small attractive assets.
Yeah, so Tracy fixed up the small and attractive assets list and put a column to the right with the date and the initials, and that we would just go around annually and make sure those items were accounted for.
Perfect.
So what do you think of that?
Jim? Yeah, I think it's great.
Okay,
I like that.
okay. Do that this year. I guess we'll pick a time. When were you thinking about doing this?
Well, we've already done.
This
we already
year.
Did it this year, so this would take effect next year and it would no longer be a policy. It would
Okay,
just be something that would be done annually.
and then would we show it to them?
I would say at the same time we do the policies, we would do the inventory and then
And
just
show
show
it to
you.
them.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you
Does that
think?
sound okay?
Does that sound
Okay.
good?
So, did we get this list from the state?
This?
It seems like, yeah, it
No,
seems like
we
a
need
walk-in cooler's not a small and attractive item, but kind of hard to walk off with it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm just saying, some of the items are fairly large.
I guess that's true. I don't know. I guess I guess we were just trying to be thorough.
Yeah, I don't care if they're included. It's just-
Yeah,
It's.
you're right. It's hard to walk away with a walk-in.
Walking.
You're right. It's not as hard to walk away with a folding chair or a,
Yeah. Or computer.
well, you're right. And the under-counter dishwasher, that would be a little hard to walk away with. I guess you're right. Maybe we should reconsider some of these.
I'm just saying, normally it's toolboxes and then.
Something you can pick up.
The inventories in the toolbox is what
Okay.
we would do with
Okay.
fire trucks and fire stations. We didn't list each tool.
Okay.
Some of the things you can do with this is, condition also. So is it operational, right? Or it gets on a list of, hey, you know, we took an inventory of it, looks like it's pretty beat up, or something's not working on it, or the ladders don't have, something's broken on it. So sometimes you can put a condition down, hey, it looks good, operational, those type of things.
Or needs surplus.
Maybe it's calling for a comment if there's any, you know.
Okay, that's a good idea, because it like needs surplus, the computers,
Yeah.
they age out and then you've got it, you have to get rid of them, yeah. Have to update, the others,
Helps
other
your budget
stuff
too.
is-
You
yeah.
know, you got some older equipment or stuff like that. It helps you budget, say, hey, it looks like we're probably gonna be replacing this next year, so
Yeah.
those type of things.
Okay. All righty, will do.
Might have to be in a little different format, because I'm
Well,
running out of, yeah, exactly.
you
I might have to go that way,
Yep.
because
Yeah.
I'm running out of column space, but yes, we can certainly do that.
Good job.
Words.
Very detailed.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll move on to update on port assets, starting with Rock Hill Industrial Park.
Okay, oh boy, okay, so let's see, I've got notes all this full page here. So we had the GSA inspection, as I mentioned in my email, we were very proud to have no findings, because they're very picky. So that was exciting. That lease is gonna be coming up for renewal, at the end of this year, which is, that's a big deal. They're hard to negotiate with. So, but, you know, all the improvements we made there are paid off, so covering our costs on the, full service lease, you know, the power. I'm actually looking forward to the opportunity to potentially get some more rent, because if you think about how much costs have gone up in 10 years, because I had to make I had to negotiate this with them 10 years ago, because they have a 5-year firm and a 5-year option, and the terms are determined. And I wanted more 10 years ago, and they said they didn't think it fit our community. They thought our ask was high. Well, I'm going to show them that it was not high, that it's accurate. So kind of looking forward to that. I'm assuming that they aren't gonna try to move out. I don't know where they would go. So the staff loves the building, so. We are getting ready to renew our contract with the guy who sprayed weeds last year. He did a good job. It's the best they've looked in years. So we're gonna renew with him. Yeah, well, no, he sprayed them well. He took care of them well. We had a gentleman who was looking for, community service work, so we had him help us move some fiber parts and clean up the old pallets, from all the parts that have been delivered over the last year. So they're sitting outside the fence down by the Cameron Street Co-working Building, and we put them on Facebook for free. So there's been a few taken. I don't know how many, but. So we did that. Jill and Tracy worked on that. Let's see, I was visited by a representative of Pacific Power today. They have a lighting incentive project, which I've already took advantage of this once when they were changing from, remember the big T12s? Is that what they were called? The big fluorescent to the smaller fluorescent?
Right.
Well, now it's from that to LED. But this program is for not just ports, but small businesses, and they pay 90% of the cost.
Oh, wow.
So I told him to go ahead and have the representative come, and maybe we would look at some of our buildings here that could use lighting upgrades and see if that would work, and then also share the information with the business community.
Right.
Because when we did it before, it was not 90%, it was about 30%. So that's a heck of a deal. I think they're desperate to reduce people's power usage because the electricity demands are so high. They've got to find a way to be able to have enough, so.
Is that total 90%?
Yeah, they said we'd have to
Labor
pay,
parts,
yes,
everything.
labor parts, we'd have to pay the sales tax. And any changes that were required because of code changes. So he said it usually works out to about 90%. So,
I would think that 10% would be easily recoverable in the energy savings.
yeah, oh, yeah. So we're going to look into that. I think that was it for the industrial park. We didn't have any maintenance items this month. No issues at buildings, yeah. Made it through the cold spell with no frozen pipes or badness.
Awesome.
So, yes.
Oh, that's good.
No, I know. Well, not every year we do either, but we were pretty on top of it this year and warned our tenants to remember to keep the heat on. So I think that's it for the industrial park.
Okay, Lions Ferry Marina.
Okay, so I sent you, and I asked Joanne to join us tonight. She's in Georgia with her daughter, but, Joanne and Wally and I have had conversations with the Resource Conservation Office. Oh, here it is. And, I think I told you a little bit about it before, where they told us that we can't apply for things like, for money to do things like the bulkhead or the moorage, anything that's in the water, until we have a permitting plan with the Corps of Engineers. So the grant holder's recommendation was that we can apply for the pull-through RV sites now. We can apply for planning funds in October and use that money to plan the bulkhead, crib wall, gas dock, moorage docks, boat launch replacements, and start the permitting process. So they'll give us money to do that, which would then have us ready to apply for funds, maybe 2026, 2028, whenever we can pull it together for those other really large projects that have no revenue associated with them. Which of course is still challenging. We still have to come up with match and, we still have to figure out how to do it. But they said we just can't if we don't have the permits.
Right.
So this
Can't
was their
apply for-
recommendation.
Can you apply for the planning funds until October?
Right, yeah, they have different planning deadlines, yeah. So that particular program is not open. That one is not open until like July, and then it's due in October. That would probably be the easiest one to get, would be my guess.
Mhm.
The pull-through site one is probably gonna be really competitive. And I think that the other ones down below. Now, I made a mistake here. I had the funding program as the BIG or boating facilities. That's why there's two max grants available, 1.4 or 1.
Okay.
So that's a mistake. It's 1 million for each. I'm pretty sure that max is 1 million for each of those programs. But the grant manager is the one that told me which program he thought would fund which projects. And then I believe I told you this, but I can't remember, so I'm gonna tell you again. We can't expand the boat launch unless we move the sea moorage. And remember that sea dock is the worst shape, the
Right.
one in the worst shape.
Yeah.
So those would need to be done together. And so we could swap it. We could swap it and apply for the sea moorage and the boat launch in 2026 and move the other ones later. I was just trying to spread it out, so there was some sort of a strategy.
Right.
And then I did talk to Joanne, we talked more about the match for the pull-through sites, and the concessionaires are willing to help put in cash match. The grant manager also said that in-kind match can work for this project. So if we can figure out how to do it, we could potentially get people to help with the actual construction that would count as match.
Okay.
It's just a matter of making it work with public funds. But Joanne and Wally seem to have interested people at the marina that are interested in helping them with things. So we just have to figure out how to make it work,
Right.
how it works with the public funds. Joanne, did you wanna, go ahead, Joanne. You need to unmute, Joanne, you need to unmute. She can't do it.
Oh, can change chat. Well, that's a good idea.
I can't unmute you, no.
There you go.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I just got the notice that said you unmuted me.
Oh, okay, that's me, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, you. Okay, so, when we were talking to the gentleman about these funds, he said that, and Wally agreed that he would go out and if anybody would allow him to help, we can turn in his hours as matching, and they would do a calculation for whatever the pay was, and that would go toward the matching funds.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and he's willing to
Yeah.
grab a shovel and do whatever to help out there.
Yeah, and then, like I said, we had found the restroom that was cheaper than what Anderson Perry had put on the list, so I think part of it would be trying to figure out how to make it a little bit more cost effective. But anyway, so that's the plan. So if we are going to do anything, like if we're gonna apply by May, I need to I'll need to put a resolution in front of you in March
Okay,
to have formal approval, because the RCO will not, we can't apply without formal approval from the governing body.
right.
So that's why I'm sharing this now.
Well, I'm interested in having a formal motion so we can vote on it,
Okay,
have it go through.
I would bring the motion, the resolution to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I would need to
Yeah.
prepare it, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for anything tonight, except I don't want, I mean, if we're gonna move forward, I need some sort of consensus that we're gonna move forward, so we can start. I attended a workshop today or a webinar today about the application process and their website. You have to go through their website, and so there's no guarantee that it'll work in any way. I gotta make sure it'll work, you know, I gotta look at all their requirements, and
It's still competitive.
it's very competitive, and they have a lot of, you know, the I's to dot and T's to cross. But we would, you know, the concessionaires, as you know, would very much like to move forward with this, and they have done a great job, and, I know that the revenue generated, we would get more revenue from this because their rent would go up for anything in compensation for anything the port puts into this project. So. So I don't know if you want to discuss it more, or do you want me to bring you a resolution next month, or what you want to do?
Comments, questions?
Yeah, probably see what that looks like.
Okay. All right, I will do that. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
All right.
address it next month.
Okay, and then I think that was all, let's see, what else did I write up here? Oh, I mentioned last month that the RCO you have to have an approved parks plan in order to apply, and ours is gonna expire at the end of the year, so I contacted the county planning department, and Dina has already sent the plan to each of the 4 entities, and so we're going through it and updating it, so that's another thing that you would need to adopt, but it doesn't have anything to do with this timeline,
Right.
it's just for the future. So that's something we'll be doing within the next few months,
Okay.
is reviewing that plan and having you formally adopt it. The county will, the city will, Starbuck will, and we will,
Okay,
once it's all complete, because it's a cooperative plan.
right.
And that's it for the marina.
Okay, we'll move on to Blue Mountain Station then.
Okay, so the grain cluster, had lots of action on that. So you saw the study. I guess what I would bring to your attention would be the recommendations section on page 16, and I met with the malt company owner, because remember I told you he was looking, I make sure I don't have too many pushing buttons, that he was looking at another location. And so we kind of talked that through, and we looked at the recommendations, and really it seems like probably a combination of strategy 1, 2. Actually, yeah, probably all of the strategies except number 6 at this point. It'd be kind of a combination, but really the thing that works best for them would be strategy 2, where the port would build the building, build and own the building, and Mainstream Malt would lease it. I wrote this down so I would discuss it in a way that made sense for you. They have already found equipment that will save them money. Because that was one of the other recommendations, was find a way to reduce the cost of the whole project. They found equipment in Europe that they were able to buy at a very, very reduced rate. And so they are in the process of purchasing that. Jill and Veronica are going to we need to survey the regional growers to see if they have any interest in the grain cluster portion, which would be the grain, where there'd be shared grain storage, grain cleaning. There seems to be a fair amount of interest in farmers having some specialty grains that don't go through the traditional grain grower system, where it's smaller and they're getting more money for it because they're doing something different with it. But we need to know that before we would move forward with that. And, so then I went and talked to Curb to see what they have to offer. It's called a committed partner, no, what's it called? Committed private construction application. And so that is when you have a business, a bird in the hand, they call it, an actual business that you know is gonna locate in the building. There are a list of threshold requirements. And, one of them is it either has to have a significant job creation, which is 100 jobs, basically, which this could not be. We don't have 100 unemployed people here, so that won't work. Or a significant private investment, which is more than the Curb request. And given the size of this project, that would be no problem. And so I had Curb give me an amortization sheet. It would be a $5 million loan. I had them give me an estimated amortization, and the private sector can't find these terms. It's pretty good. It would actually be 1.25 million of it would be a grant, $3.75 million loan, 2% interest with a 3-year deferral. So you don't have to pay till 2027. So it's the same kind of deal we got when we bought the land out there. So I met with the business owner and his private equity, the private equity firm that he's working with. And they love that idea, understanding that they would have to pay a significant amount of rent to us each month. In the range of, over $10,000 a month in rent. And so those funds, so some of those funds would be used to put in infrastructure, which would be structure that would go all the way to the end of the property, the spot with the housing. I've discussed that with them. And then the building shell, at least the shell, they have to put money into the public structure for Curb to accept it. So they have to put their own money into the building as well, the building that we will own at the rate of 20% of the total project, so a couple million. And then they have to prove that they have the rest of the investment. So like the equipment counts, has to be capital, can't be working capital. It has to be physical equipment or part of the physical structure.
Right.
They say that's no problem. So, Curb is a great program because they meet every 2 months, so we can apply in March for their May meeting, or we can apply in May for their July meeting, or in July, it's kind of a rolling thing. And I met with their other design team last week, and they're putting together numbers on their end. I've had 2 conversations with Curb. The business would have to sign a contract. So of course, the big question is, what if they default?
Right.
That's really the only risk that we have. And if they default, we still own the building, so we can find another renter, but we have to make sure we have the money to make the payment in the meantime.
Right.
So when I look at our finances, by the time we would have to start paying this, because we've got our debt service that we've been working on for several years, because this is what we do. We borrow money and we pay it back. But by 2027, there's gonna be more of it off the books. I mean, right now we have $200,000 a year in debt service, so that's enough to cover the loan. So then that would be,
If it just went.
if it just sat empty, and that's if it sat empty and nobody ever rented it.
Right.
So that's unlikely. And I talked about that over with Curb, I just said that would be my concern is default, and so it looks pretty good. I mean, it's really pretty exciting.
So,
And gives us the infrastructure we wanted to the other end of the project.
now what size building would it be? Would it still be the 10,000 square foot, or
I'm-
would we reduce it like was suggested down to 3?
Well, I have heard different from them. They talked about it being a little smaller, but if that's the case, then maybe we wouldn't borrow 5 million.
Right.
It might, 5 million is the max. So that would be the max. I guess that's kind of the way I've been looking at it, is this is the maximum we would be doing. So they have their own design firm that is doing some drawings right now. I told them that we have to, if we do get this loan, that, we have to go through a legal process to get you know, we have to put out a request for statements of qualifications and who's gonna design things, but they have a firm working on it.
Right.
And, which is nice, because it's not on our dime. So what I thought I'd do is invite them to come to the meeting next month.
Good.
So then we'd have more details and you'd hear more from them. But I wanted to give you, you know, heads up now, so you'd be
Exciting.
ready to, it is exciting,
It
it's
is.
very exciting, yeah.
Has there
very
been any
exciting.
interest from, other companies as far as, you know, pasta manufacturers?
Well,
or-
they talked to some that they said there were, so that's one of the reasons I wanna put Jill and Veronica are gonna start, they're gonna work with the consulting, the consultants that wrote the study.
Mhm.
I'm gonna enter into a service agreement with them for just some ongoing services, just like by the hour. And because they're the ones who talk to all these companies, and so first we'll survey growers, and then Jill and Veronica can work on recruiting businesses, you know, trying to find other businesses that would be interested.
Right, well, the
Yeah.
potential is really great, you know, according to this feasibility study, you know,
Yeah.
bringing what, 47, something like that, 40 some jobs.
Yeah,
You know, 22 of which would be at Blue Mountain Station, but
Uh-huh.
that's a large amount of jobs in
It
a
is.
small community like this, you
Yeah.
know, so.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging,
Well, then
Yeah.
the ripple effect beyond that.
yeah, yeah, it's a big ripple, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
big indirect job. Okay, good, so that's what I'll do then, is have them come to the next meeting, and I'll keep working through the curb legal processes, and, you will also have to have a resolution to allow us to apply.
Right.
And then the business owner and I would have to go to Olympia and present to the board, but as you know, with Curb, it's a wonderful organization. They never put you in front of the board until till we're ready, you know, and basically it's tell us what you're doing, and yes, we're gonna give you the money, so. Good,
in
Alright.
that, study, they had mentioned the possibility of approaching the state and federal legislature to
Yep.
ask for money.
Mhm. Yep.
How does that work?
Well, it's actually something we might do right away. You know how they used to call it, I know this is being recorded. How they used to call it pork?
Mhm.
Well, now they call it, they just have a different name for it. So it was pork that paid for our beautiful concrete Main Street.
Right.
When Tom Foley was the Speaker of the House, they just asked Tom for money, and it worked out, and we got $1 million.
Wow.
You know, so it's not a grant, it's not anything, it's just they do things for their constituents.
Yeah.
So now, I can't, remember what they call it. It's not, oh, well, then they called them earmarks. First it was pork, then it was earmarks. I still think they have a different name now, but you can actually apply through those congressional offices. They each have like a process that you can apply.
Set aside.
Yep, maybe it's set asides, that's probably what it is. So the consultants think that rightly so, our federal representatives would love this project.
Hmm.
So I think that that's one of the things we're gonna work with on the consultant, is making an ask for a
Right.
portion of it.
Yeah, that'd be less money we'd have to borrow.
Right, and then for the grain equipment that would be shared,
Mhm.
there are WSDA grants specifically for that purpose. I just reviewed grant applications on behalf of the WSDA, and in those applications, one was from the Port of Skagit for grain storage and cleaning equipment, and one was from the Port of Chehalis for the same thing. So this, it's not unheard of, and we could probably get some money from that to help with
Okay.
with the ancillary equipment. So the whole idea would be, that was my other sticky note in here, is the funding strategy. The whole idea would be to, you know, try to follow up on as many of them as we can.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just keep finding funding to pay for all the different parts and pieces,
Right.
but get a significant investment from the business. And they just said that the curb funding, it just helps their whole funding strategy, because it's such you know, for us, it's just such cheap money. They can't get money that cheap.
Right.
And so to just be able to pay us rent is it works for
Right.
their strategy, so. Yes, it's very fun.
Jenny, did you say this company was a grain company? Like a?
Malt, they take barley that's grown on our hills and they malt it. And then the malt, like breweries use it, distilleries.
Right.
It's like, I don't know, it's almost split, or it's kilned, it's like cooked. Yeah, it's a process.
Sprouts,
Yeah,
they let it sprout and then they roast it
Yeah.
and stop the sprouting at that point. So the sugars are available in the grain.
yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. No,
Use adult.
I'm just, I explained the money and build the buildings. You understand them all. Okay, well, I will, invite them to the next meeting then and prepare a resolution for that application,
Okay,
so that whenever we decide to do it, we're ready.
all right. So talk to us about Glass.
Okay, so I got approached by a company from Walla Walla, well, company, a nonprofit from Walla Walla, that they have been trying to figure out a way to recycle glass for years, especially all those wine bottles.
Mm.
So their first effort was to make it into sand. And but they could not get the Washington State Department of Transportation or other authorizing agencies to allow it to be used as sand. They were afraid it was gonna cut things or something like that. I'm not sure. So their latest effort that's working is they have a drop off in Walla Walla. And this is a nonprofit. They don't make a dime from it. They like write grants to try to make this work. Recycling doesn't pay. It's really unfortunate. But they are collecting it in Walla Walla at the airport in big bins, and then BDI takes it for them from Walla Walla to Pasco and stores it until they have enough that is ready, and then they ship it to Seattle and Portland. There's a state law requires that any glass that's manufactured has to go through a trade association before it goes to glass factories for reuse. So this Glass Packaging Institute takes the glass and then they send it to 3 factories, Portland, Kalama, and Seattle. And they can make, I guess they can make the brown glass into other brown glass. They can make the green glass into some other color glass, and then the clear glass, I think they have to do something different with it. They can't remake it into clear glass. But anyway, so that they don't get any money for it, but those glass factories will take it and recycle it. So what they, so their biggest funding issue is, just the transportation. But what they would like to do is set up a glass recycling here from April to October, 1 day a month. On Saturdays from 10 to 2, so people would have to store up their glass and take it in and do it at Blue Mountain Station. And they right now, they either charge people, either 25 cents a pound, or people can become a member of their nonprofit. And that revenue streams helps us offset the cost, or they would accept money. I asked them, what would it cost for us to just pay for it? And they said it would be about $450 a month for those 7 months to pay for the cost of them to transport it from Walla Walla, from Dayton to Walla Walla, and then the Walla Walla to Pasco. So I think it's a great idea. I think we should do it either way, whether the public pays or we pay. And people, all you have to do is you have to rinse the glass, but you don't have to take the label off. You just it has to be rinsed. But I also thought I would ask if you guys had any interest in us paying that fee so that the citizens here don't have to pay to recycle the glass. Citizens or businesses don't have to pay. And even if we don't pay for all of it, they said we could just play it by ear and see what their costs, because they don't know how much it's gonna be. They don't know if it's gonna be just a little bit of glass they get here, or if it's gonna be a lot of glass. If it's a little bit of glass, then the cost of transporting from Walla Walla to Pasco wouldn't happen every month. That would be every few months. That's the biggest cost. It's about $325. So that was we have our community support budget line item. So I was just curious if you had any interest in paying a little bit at the beginning and trying to get people to recycle and seeing how it goes with no long-term commitment.
So they just come in with the truck and park it there once?
They're gonna come in with a truck and they're gonna monitor, so, because you just can't put bins out anymore, because
Right.
people fill them with garbage. Yeah, they'll come once a month, and they'll be there,
Permanent structure.
they'll just bring a truck, and they're gonna have bins on the back, and people just bring their glass. So, yeah, I think there's no question we should do it, the question really is, should we help participate? And that was really my idea. I just thought it would be nice if the citizens didn't have to pay, so that anybody could bring their glass. I know they have a lot of wineries in Walla Walla that are participating, so they're pretty excited about it. It seems to be working so far.
Right.
Yeah.
You looking for direction?
Yeah, on whether or not we should try to contribute to this a little bit. We have a $10,000 a year line item that's called community support. I just thought, to me, it's just like, why should only the people who have money be able to recycle their glass? That,
Yeah.
you know, because it's just not very much money for our port. You know, we have other revenue besides tax revenue, you know, we've got other revenue, so that was just an idea, but it's not a big deal, either way. Well, yeah,
So it'd be 450 times 7.
yeah, it'd be $3,150 if we committed to all 7 months.
What do they do in Wallable?
They charge people,
So people pay.
the people pay, yeah.
Unless you're a member in that.
Well, the people pays, yeah, the membership, they said like for a household, it'd probably be like $30 a year to be a member. And I mean, we could ask for donations, and we don't have to do this, I just thought it'd be a fun idea,
Well,
just because it's not very much money.
It's a large chunk of annual community support money.
It is, yeah. No, it's really not a big deal, whatever you guys decide. Totally up to you.
I can't recognize you.
We could put, well, it's people aren't supposed to talk unless it's public comment.
Oh,
Yeah, so unless the commission wants to take comments. But, yeah, we could just say we'll donate a little bit. He said that would be fine too. We don't have to commit to all of it, or we can commit to none of it. It really is okay, whatever you guys decide. I'm excited to have it though. I already started saving glass at home. I feel guilty throwing stuff away.
I'd like to see us try it in a couple months and introduce our public to it. At our cost and see what the take is from those that recycle the first couple months. And then, I mean, as a business, I would join and pay my fee. We don't do that, but we do enough that it would probably actually cut my garbage bill down.
Well, okay, so now you've given me another idea. What if we just did it with the fee system? But if somebody came and said, oh, I didn't know I have to pay, I can't pay, then we could,
We could
I don't know.
cover the cost.
I don't know. Or I guess do it for a couple months. People maybe make sure they know people can make donations or still join and pay them to defer the cost. I don't know.
I don't know, the thing is, you know, here in Dayton, our garbage service is pretty much unlimited, you know, they'll take whatever you put out there, you can put extra bags, you can put a couch out there, call them, they'll come get it, you know, so I don't know what the demand is really gonna be for glass cycling in our community.
Yeah, but it's, I know there will be people that use it. It's just a matter of how much.
There is a question.
So are you commissioners opposed to hearing some comments from the public?
No, I'm not opposed to it.
All right, go ahead.
Right now at the dump, beside where they recycle cardboard, there's a big metal bin to recycle glass. And I've been taking my stuff there for a couple of years. You can do that for free.
The difference is that goes in the landfill. They're not recycling it.
Then why do you have to keep it separate?
I don't know, but they're not, as far as I know, they're not recycling it. I can find out. Yeah, that's been the problem all along, is that that's what, when China stopped taking our recycling, that they're sending it to the landfills. I don't know.
Well, while I was participating, do they only get it once a month too, or can they?
They get it once a week.
Once a week,
Yeah, because they have so many wineries.
which makes sense. I'm not sure how many people will save their glass for a month. Does she?
It's be up to people's individual choice.
I don't mind putting it out there. I think it's a solid idea every chance you get, but I think that the individuals would like to have some skin in the game as far as, having it set out there, letting them know that it's there. And then evaluating, see what the use is, on that. So, that's kind of where I'm saying with it. I mean, we could, say, all right, we're gonna kick it off and we're gonna pay for it for the first month. Type deal, but after that, I just think that I want the individuals to be just kind of like what Walla was having on that. So I would imagine if you can buy the glass, you can get rid of the glass as well.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. You know, I don't necessarily believe it's a government's responsibility to take care of the public's utility bills or their garbage bills or whatnot. I'm all for community support, but I think in this case, it'd be kind of nice to even judge the interest on it before we commit to $3,100 a year of our community support money, because we've got, other commitments that we use that for, and
I'd like to see what the dump, I'd like to get clarification on what the dump does here, where that goes. You know, maybe they take it to Walla Walla to this recycling area and dump it off. I don't know. So I'd like to get some clarification on that just to see,
Okay.
all the information possible before we make.
Okay, but it doesn't hurt to have the other recycling come. I mean, as if we're
No,
not,
I'm not
it's not
opposed, I'm
costing
not
us any
opposed to them
money.
coming.
Yeah.
Nope, I'm not opposed to them coming at all.
Yeah. Okay, I will do that. I'll get back to you.
moving on to the CWW Railroad.
Okay, we found the valve maps, as I told you in between. The appraiser is now reading the material to determine if he has enough information from them. So that is still ongoing. So I don't really have any, other than he's reading through them. I don't have any update,
Okay.
any further update. Also with the railroad, I'm working on the master license agreement between the city and the port and the rail operator. That has been somewhat complicated, going through with the attorney. I met with the real estate company again yesterday. I went through it again. Sent it back to our attorney today. So trying to get to a final spot, we can send it to the city so they can review it. So what this master license agreement would do would be it would cover all of the utilities that the city has in the railroad right of way now, and then any additions, which would be that sewer line. So that's what they're kind of trying to do with the power companies, where there's so many power lines crossing the rail line in so many different places, they have these master agreements. So working through that. And then I did have a request for a new access road down by Cold Springs Lane. We are considering it. We don't do those very often, but we're considering it because we eliminate a driveway and crossing the driveway is pretty dangerous off of Highway 12. So that person would eliminate that one and just eliminate a whole crossing, which the rail operator loves that. So we're still working that out as well. So that's it.
Where's that at?
Near Cold Springs Road.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
I know our operators told us that the railroad down at Wallula is not allowing us to take cars.
Uh-huh.
Have we, as a port, since we own the section to Walla Walla, does Walla Walla also not able to move their grain cars onto
No,
nobody?
well, it's the same operator.
Okay,
So our operator operates the section that we own from here to Walla Walla. And then it's the section that UP owns from Walla Walla to Wallula. So it's the same operator.
so I would like to look into why legally, how we're being not allowed to enter the railway. That just doesn't make sense to me. They donated the railroad to us in Walla Walla County and then cut off access? Or has that just happened recently?
Recently. Mhm.
How does somebody cut off access?
Well, the class one railroads are the kings.
Right, but
They're not regulated by the state, but, I don't know. I mean, they let Watco go to their elevators, but they're not letting CWW.
well, they're letting quite a few short lines go to their
Mhm.
main line.
Yeah.
And he would be happy to tell you, because he came here one time and told us exactly what that was.
Right, I was here at that meeting, but it wasn't like, well, let's challenge them. Why aren't we?
There was another one before, a while back that had some conversation with him
Oh, okay,
about that, so he'd be absolutely happy to chat with you about it.
okay,
For
I'll
sure.
call him, but I'm saying, why aren't we as a port and joining with Walla Walla saying, BS?
Yeah.
And,
It was before any of you were commissioners.
Right.
The current commissioners that I had, one of them and I went down and talked to the Port of Walla Walla, and they were not interested in helping.
okay, can we talk to them?
That might change. Yeah, I don't know.
They're different.
Yeah, I
People there.
can sure try. Yeah, it's just awkward because it's not in our county.
Right,
But that's why we had gone to the Port of Walla Walla.
but
Yeah.
that's like cutting off a county road that
Mm-hmm,
the state says, no, can't have entry anymore on Highway 12.
right, yeah.
You go, wait a minute,
Good point.
I gotta get back on.
I could ask our port attorney too. I don't think I ever asked her. I could ask her if she had any ideas
I
for.
would at least like to.
Hey, conversations are free and valuable.
Yeah. So, I watched some little YouTube video of our Department of Transportation guy standing at Wallula talking about the value of short lines for grain.
Mm-hmm,
And it was about a year ago.
mm-hmm.
And you go, really? And we can't transport our grain? It would give another option is,
Yeah.
I guess, my point. And maybe make the market value of transportation a little better for our farmers.
Okay,
Agreed.
well, I will ask Kim if she has any ideas and I will.
Maybe I'll just call Pete Buttigieg and ask him. No.
Mhm.
Well, I have thought all along that Paul is really the one. I mean, he has a lease that I would think said he could access that elevator.
Yeah,
So it seems like he's the one that has the legal teeth to push. But I also know that, like, the grain growers didn't want to push UP because they have this relationship with them so many different places, they don't want to make them mad. You know, the class ones really are the king.
yeah.
They hold the cards.
But it may be something that if the railroad operator is pushing and this port's pushing and Walla Walla port's pushing, then you get some momentum and there's more than just,
Yeah.
you bring an army to the table rather than
Right.
one guy.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of why we had gone to the Port of Walla Walla before. It was pretty disappointing at the time that they had no intention or interest in participating. Yeah, it's a bummer. All right, I will look into it more.
Okay, thank you. Okay, broadband.
Okay.
Dayton Community Broadband Project.
So it is basically done. We do have we have a premise that seems to have been missed, so we're trying to figure out what to do about that, about getting some fiber strung to their house. But otherwise, I didn't count how many customers we were up to,
I didn't
but
either.
they continue to hook people up. It's still really going great, so. I'll probably just have to take that off the list pretty soon, because it's basically done, so. We got our last reimbursements and all that, so I guess I hadn't told you that, we got all of our last reimbursements from the state, so we are financially whole.
Last time we talked, we were out of drops. Did we get those in?
Yes, we did, they took forever to get here, but yes, we bought more drops, they're here.
Perfect. Okay, Tushy Valley Broadband.
So with Tushy Valley, we are gonna need to make a few changes. We have a change order that I've prepared to add 5 premises that were missed in the original design, 2 premises that have been built since we started that want service, and a long drop on Timpy Road due to a landowner that won't allow us to cross his field in his private property, so to go around, so it's longer. And then putting conduit on the Rose Gulch Bridge as the county replaces that bridge this spring. So it adds up to about $80,000. We have plenty of money in this budget, so money's not the issue, time is the issue. So the contractor also brought to our attention that he is not gonna be able to do ground restoration when it's this wet and mucky. So our proposal, working with Kara, is to extend, the project was supposed to be completed January 31st. We knew we were gonna have to extend it because the ground was frozen. So our plan is to extend it to March 31st for substantial completion, except for the Rose Gulch Bridge. And we'll give him until May 30th to finish the Rose Gulch Bridge and all the restoration of property.
Okay.
And that's not a problem with the funder or anything, it's just I'm gonna put it in formal writing in the change order, so it's all very clear. And I just finished that change order today, so I'm gonna send it to the contractor this week.
Okay.
And he's on board with it, so, yeah, his bid was really good, so we've got money left in the budget. We also supplies for those additional drops, so Tracy just did that yesterday, so,
Some things came today.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, and we are gonna order just a couple of extra vaults to have on hand. They recommended that, so that in case a new area of housing was built or something, then we have that, because they're harder to get and expensive, so we'll just get a couple to have on hand for future. Yeah, so it's very exciting. Going fine, but been muddy and frozen and muddy and frozen and muddy. Yes.
Okay, rural broadband planning.
I believe I told you in the mid-month email that Petrichor has received funds to help us. Did I tell you that? Okay. So I don't have a contract yet. It's just it's a interlocal agreement. It costs us nothing, but it just kind of lays out in fact, I have one here. Lays out what they'll do for us, which is amazing. They will help us determine financial capability, technical capability, owner operational capability, all of that stuff. Define the project area, do high-level mapping, cost estimates, project budget, project feasibility, and then provide assistance to apply for the funds. First, we have to determine if we're eligible, because BEAD funds are federal and you have to have like a license, you have to be like a licensed operator, so we will determine that. And so I'm really excited because that's a complicated system. So they got money to help kind of all the counties in southeastern Washington with this process. And then if we're not capable or eligible of applying for those funds, Herb still has broadband funds like what we used for this project, so we could continue to access those easier funds and just move forward in smaller increments. So no action at this point, just knowledge.
I have a question on
Sure.
when we first put it in, we were hearing, some comments or whatever, good. Are we gonna do sectional surveys down the road of how the service is? Even though we're not providing the service, but just customer satisfaction type deal, how's it working for you? Those type of things, or do we plan on that?
I had not planned on it. Is that something you'd like us to
It'd be nice
do?
to see, you take the resource and assets, and we're gonna say, we're gonna do this because it's gonna make your life better. Well, does it really? Is it meeting the mark that we were setting? So, if it's not, then we can adjust going forward, but if it is, then we just kind of continue and say, okay, our anticipation of what it was gonna do actually hit the mark that we were trying to achieve. So it'd be nice to know if we're hitting the mark that we're trying to achieve. And
Okay.
it could be like, after 6 months, and then maybe a year after that, how's the providers? How's your service? How's those things? It'd be nice to get a nice, good feedback.
Okay,
I can run all my TVs and my computer at the same time.
So, I mean, that's just,
So you're satisfied?
Yes.
Save about $100 a month by not paying for a dish network or.
oh my God, yes.
Streaming everything, so.
but
Yeah,
it applies that your justification, right? When we do some of these things, and in other communities as well, right? They'll reach out to us, say, how did it work for you guys?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any data. It's hard to say, man, it's proven worked really good, or here's some of the hitches with it that we found that you don't have to do it in your process.
yeah, our adoption rate is, we're the envy of everyone for our adoption rate, because it's so high.
It's good.
I know, very exciting.
Our cable TV not working very well.
Yeah.
Really
We were
press
desperate.
that
Yeah.
on.
Yep,
Yeah, when your options are limited, when you're hungry and somebody throws you a cracker, it's the best cracker you ever had.
that's right. Although I do think this is good internet. I do think this is a good cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Ritz. What was I gonna say? Charter is still building here, so at some point Charter is gonna have something they're gonna offer here. I'd be curious to see what it is. Okay, sounds good.
So community and economic development, how about some staff reports?
All right, so I sent you the notification about the MARAD workshop in May. You do not need to go, but if you're interested, you are welcome to attend. So I'm helping with that, with the ports of Pasco and Walla Walla and Clarkston and Whitman and I am gonna facilitate a section on federal funding. Walla Walla Tourism, we have completed that, regional tourism study. We have completed all the stakeholder studies and are working on what are the next steps. And the region does seem to want to continue to plan as a region, so they're trying to form I can't remember what it was called, like a management group. That's not the right word.
The destination management organization?
Kind of, yeah, like a group of people from across the region that will help manage the idea. And I'm working on a subcommittee on regional branding ideas on what we would do to brand as a region. So it's, Visit Walla Walla is gonna take the lead, and that's my goal, is to make sure they keep at it, and that if they really mean that they want to do regional tourism, that they really include the rural areas. It's not just double speaking, that they really do it, yeah. I'm gonna testify tomorrow morning to this legislature on the idea of codifying the curb broadband funding, and what that would mean is they would write it into the state statutes so that CURB doesn't have to ask every year for money. They're actually not asking for any extra money. It just is going to become they're trying to make it just part of their regular program that they offer. And CURB has a really good reputation, so I'm hoping that that happens. But they asked me to testify because our project has gone so well. So, and then there are rumors of somebody buying the Columbia Pulp building downtown. I have no proof, but we've heard it from two different sources that someone has purchased that building.
Oh,
Yeah. So we'll have to see what comes of that. Last thing is that I attended Ports Subcommittee for the Regional Transportation Planning Organization, and my big complaint to them was about the condition of Highway 12 and what in the world is gonna happen. I mean, coming over that bridge from downtown this way, it's just like hitting a brick. It's just such a dip. And unfortunately, the news I was given was that 2027 would be the earliest that they are going to. Well, and what I was told is that the legislature is focusing on new big projects, like new construction of roads and freeways and other things, instead of preservation and maintenance. And so I am probably going to craft a letter to our legislators and just send them some pictures or just an email, send them some pictures of Highway 12 and say, this is really critical. We just need to preserve what we have and not just build new stuff.
There's a bridge up in town, it's just falling apart.
Mhm. Yeah,
Concrete's just cut.
disintegrating. Yeah, I know.
Pretty soon it's just gonna fall.
Yeah,
Very close.
Yeah.
right, right.
Really fall into the new category.
Well, it's that. Yeah, the hard way to do things. Okay, that's enough for me. I'll let Jill talk.
So we have been planning and doing some workshops. Since the last meeting, we had our second social media workshop, and we had a basics of business finance workshop. And then I put in your packets, there's coming up a sort of how to use ChatGPT/AI workshop. There's gonna be 2 of those. We're trying to accommodate based off the surveys, just like timing wise. I know not everyone can come in the evening, but not everyone can at lunch. So we're gonna host 2 just so everybody, not people. So working on planning that. And then you also have in your packet our quarterly connections, which is our networking event that we are going to have on March 7th. Anyone is welcome to attend. We are getting Lisa Mathias from Walla Walla WorkSource to do a presentation on sort of intergenerational workforce, which I think will be really interesting, and really applicable to our area. We wrote a letter of support for some ADO funding that is up there. We are continuing to work with Elevate. Me and Jenny went to a planning session on post-secondary enrollment. You also have in your packet the Choose Columbia County analytics for January. There was a 577 increase in impressions, a 430 increase in the reach, and a 40 increase in accounts engaged. So just overall seeing a big increase, and we're also seeing kind of a more diverse audience. We're starting to reach the Tri-Cities area, which is huge. That's like a big market we want to tap into as far as visitors and businesses and things like that. So that's really interesting to see. As Jenny mentioned with the grain cluster, we're working on some outreach, both with the farmers and then some businesses that could use the grain, so pastas, wholesale bakeries, things like that. Let's see. Oh, working on some digital equity. I've had some meetings and just reaching out to the partners about sort of doing an asset inventory on the digital equity services that are in our area, trying to make sure that everyone is doing what they said they would do for digital equity. So, let's see, I think that is it.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, housing.
So I have been in discussion with the city planner about housing and the idea of annexing just the commercial properties to get Blue Mountain Station into the city. I think we have a pretty solid plan that would only affect one other property besides the port. So I need to follow up with them on that before we have anything formal. And the other property that would be affected, I've already talked to them, it's not a residence, it's a church.
Mhm.
And I don't think they're opposed in any way. They actually, I think they're kind of interested in it because it would make their utilities cost less. So that might be a really easy fix. So what I figured out is that, because our industrial park is city property, city limits, but the other side of the highway is county. But and we were in a meeting with a DOT person, which is who I asked, and he agreed with me, if we just annex the church property, it's across from the city property that we have. And if we annex the highway, which we want to do because we want control over signage, that counts. So it's one property.
Becomes contiguous.
Great, becomes contiguous and doesn't affect anybody that doesn't want to be annexed. So that's the idea we're looking at right now.
So is Van Oswald, are they county or city?
They're county. Yeah,
So would they be part of this?
they wouldn't unless they wanted to be.
Right.
I mean, more properties could be, but you know, I was just trying to look for the least
Mhm.
affected,
Yeah,
least
they're just
impacted,
county.
but yes, I guess they could, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I guess they could. Yeah, I could show you a map at some point. But yeah, their county, it's so strange. We're in the city on this side of the road, but on the other side, it's county all the way down to the Phoenix Pulp and Polymer building.
Okay.
All the way to that. Yeah, it's very strange.
Mhm.
It's like somebody just drew the line over to encompass our industrial park.
Mhm.
So, but I haven't found a person yet who is not in favor of us having control, you know, the city having control over more of the highway going out of town. So the signage could be better, the speed limit could be better, the access could be better, you know, there's a lot of benefits, so. And then I have spoken with a consultant that helps with housing. So I don't really have a lot to report yet, but I am starting to talk to people that could help us with the idea of coming up with a strategy that might work to attract a developer or something to happen if we had our utilities towards the end of the Mountain Station property.
Do you think the city has an inventory of the non-habitable houses in town?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. The problem we have with building is that the builders are in shortage. Costs are high. So if a builder is gonna build houses, they wanna build it where they can maximize their profit, and that is not Dayton. That is Tri-Cities or Wenatchee or
Okay.
building, coming here and rehabbing houses and building infill. That would take a different kind of agency, which I am talking to this consultant about, you know. I mean, my understanding is that the Walla Walla Housing Authority governs Dayton. Well, if they do, why aren't they doing anything here?
Yeah.
Why don't they do anything here? why aren't they helping people rehab houses?
Yeah.
So this group I'm talking to seems to have that capability, so I don't have any agreement with them or anything yet, I'm just kind of feeling them out. I sent them the housing study that we had that showed what size housing we need here. The studio and 1 bedroom, and so I sent them all that information. I'm waiting for them to kind of go through it, and see what they think. Housing trusts, they understand affordable housing money from the state. They understand that we want workforce housing, you know, I'm just kind of trying to lay it all out, and then they're gonna think about how you might put the pieces together. And Clark and I, the city planner and I talked about it, and with that lot size, with that land size, and even if we did like regular city lots, there could be as many as 45 homes on that spot, which is pretty significant.
Yeah.
So I would think it'd be attractive to someone, but I don't know. Depends on how much they can sell them for. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, well, at this time, we're going to go ahead and have an executive session. The purpose of the executive session is to consider the minimum price at which real estate will be offered for sale or lease when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of the decreased price. However, final action selling or leasing public property shall be taken in the meeting open to the public. And also to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a public employee. However, subject to RCW 42.30.140, paragraph 4, discussion by a governing body of salaries, wages, and other conditions of employment to be generally applied within the agency shall occur in a meeting open to the public. And when a governing body elects to take final action hiring, setting the salary of an individual employee or cost of employees or discharging or disciplining an employee, that action shall be taken in a meeting open to the public. So we're going to break for executive session, to discuss these things, but we will not take any action during our executive session. Any formal action will be done afterwards in public. So you're welcome to stick around and come back after this, and
We need to estimate the time, and I didn't do that.
yeah, I'm thinking probably for both of these 20 minutes. Is it gonna take very long for the,
No, I don't think so.
okay,
I think 20 is probably fine.
I think 20 minutes. So the time is now 6:12, so 6:13, so
Okay, I'm gonna put those of you on Zoom in the waiting room.
6:33.
Let's see, I better remember how to do this. Oh, I have locked the meeting. Well, that was an accident. Stop.
Don't bump your head on the way out, Kevin. Don't bump your head on the way. Or again.
Did you want to pause recording or
Oh,
stop?
wait, you're right, pause.
Okay, so we have finished with our executive session. At this time, I would like to make a motion that we change the executive director position from a contracted position to a non-contracted at-will position.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to change the executive director position to a non-contracted at-will position. All those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion passes 2-1. I guess what I'd like to say on that is I don't believe that there's a necessity to have the executive director position as a contracted position. In my opinion, it's unnecessary. It puts the court in a difficult situation. I don't see the benefit to the court in it. And really leaves very little repercussion unless there's very severe consequences or very severe infractions or very poor behavior. Now, the behavior hasn't always been the way I would like to see it. There's definitely been some occasions where there's been some insubordination, sometimes that I've met with Jenny where she's trying to find ways to discipline or punish another commissioner for attendance reasons. Trying to, in my opinion, drive a wedge between the commission and create, dissension and hardship. There's been situations where in meetings when things do not go according to the way that it seems that she feels that they should, that her demeanor after that in public meetings has been less than professional. And so for these reasons, I do not believe,
I'm gonna stop you here.
you can try to stop me, but I'm the chairperson here.
Well, but you're bringing up personal evaluation things that.
I'm not bringing up personal value. I'm bringing up things that happen in public meetings. So that is not personnel evaluations. I'm not going into
You're having
evaluations. Is no attack. I'm just bringing up things that are concerns of mine that have happened in public meetings.
based on your opinion.
And I say clearly, this is my opinion.
Okay.
So for these reasons, I am not willing to enter into a contract with Ms. Dickinson at this time.
Do I have the right to speak?
Absolutely.
I completely, totally disagree. I think a professional way to run a business is to have a contract that people know where they stand in the process. And you're saying, in your opinion, I hope all that was captured on our evaluation, because that's the point where you're supposed to try to correct behavior or reward great behavior. To me, there's a whole much better way to get things done is with a carrot and not a stick. You seem to be a stick guy.
Well, I didn't bring any carrots with me tonight. Appreciate your opinion, but I stand by mine.
Any other comments? Is that where we're at? Are we to that part? Any other comments?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment. I think what was just happened was really unprofessional. That those things that you're feeling should never have been said publicly on record. If you have a problem with Jenny, you talk to Jenny behind closed doors in private. And like Mike said, on her evaluation, you don't bring it up in front of everybody else here. I think that was really, really very rude and not a nice way to treat your employees.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That all said, is now time, unless there's any other further comments?
I don't have any.
Okay. We will go to our final public comment period, limit of 1 minute per person. Anybody in the room have any final public comments?
I just have a question. I don't know if you can answer it. There was another item in your executive. Are you taking any action on that first item?
No, there will be action taken. No public comment in the room. Is there any public comment online? Okay, no public comment. At this time, it is 6:39. We will call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you for the water.
Oh, you're welcome.
Not right now.
Just